This video is a replay of a trade I took today. Now, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am not a financial advisor, and trading entails risk. Just because I got these results today doesn't mean that I can get these every day, nor that you can. Remember, the entire premise of the investing project and the $1 million experiment is that I am not an expert, and yet I am learning how to do this. So for heaven's sake, don't just blindly copy me. Instead, find a mentor, someone who is an expert, and join their community. Pay for their mentorship. This approach has worked very well for me, and it likely will for you too. So use this video partly as education and partly as inspiration. After all, if I can learn this, you can too. Oh, so it was not a very good day today, that's for sure. This is Fed day. And in retrospect, I often don't trade Fed days, and this would have been a very good one to not trade since it was probably my biggest loss day ever. But it didn't start out that way. The first trade, actually, I decided it was looking a bit negative on the well, in general, things looked a bit red, and I said, okay, here on the 15-minute. On the ES, if this takes out this 15-minute bar and goes lower, I'm going to take a breakdown trade, which I don't normally do, but I thought, what the heck, I want to do it. I'll do it with a slightly smaller amount, 3 contracts instead of my usual 6, and we'll just see what happens. And so I did do that. And interestingly, this worked. This was the trade that began the day, and it did pretty well to begin with. So let's just let this go. And we'll see. There's an unfortunate part of it that I didn't really appreciate at the time, but now in retrospect, it's a bit unfortunate. And that is that I have it set to once it triggers, once it goes 15 points in the right direction, I have it set up to trail the stop for my first target, 15 points behind the lowest part of the bar. And so indeed, that's what happened. Unfortunately, before it got to my first target, it retraced and took me out. And then in a fit of brilliance, I also moved the one remaining one to 1 point behind that, and it got taken out as well. Long story short, I made $100 on this little excursion, but I think there was a lot more available if I hadn't been trailing. And because of that, I want to have a look at this right now and just see what would have happened. So I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to move this thing back here, and I'm going to keep doing that just to see what would have happened if I hadn't been trailing. At the end of the day, of course, I was trailing, and so I ended up with a very small profit. But I'm always curious to see if I had done something differently, what could have been. So let's have a look here, because the market really sold off heavily today. So 2 ways about it. So at this point, I think I would have been out, because I think it came back at that point and took me out. Let's watch it a little bit more. Yeah, I think that little move there was the one that ultimately took me out before it then resumed its fall. This is the insult to injury portion of the day here, because of course I already know what the answer was. The answer is target bell. Okay, so there we are. That was the first target. So that would have been $300. And let's see if we hit target 2 here. Pretty sure we did. It wouldn't have been right away. And I know it didn't retrace that far. Let's come down and see here. It's funny. I've been thinking about these trailing amounts and these trailing stops, and I'm not really married to them. They're good in markets where there's a lot of very quick snapbacks, and you want to make sure you lock in something. This is not the kind of conditions that I would normally want to be using those, and for obvious reasons. So I may have to revisit that. Okay, here we go. So there is a $500 trade. I didn't get it. I got a $100 trade. So $400 on the table. That is unfortunate. Now, in the meantime, back at the ranch, we had, let me just actually wind this back a little bit, because at 7:05, I took an ill-fated long on the Russell. And this is back, still trying to find it here. Yeah, this is back when we had 1, 2, 3, 4 red candles. So if we look here, we have one, two, three, 4 red candles, what looks like a wick coming up here, and then a green candle. And I said, okay, I'm going to put on a position at 2955.5, which was about here. Is that right? 2952, 2950. No, it's not. It's way up here. Really? No, I did 2955.5. Okay, I must have waited for it to rebound quite a lot. Which is fair enough. So it's only 7:02. So let's let this go forward a little bit here. Now, yeah. So I actually, as I'm thinking back on it now, I actually did want to wait until I had some sort of stronger indication. And so this was the first green candle. So I put it on. I was a tad late actually, but I put that on. Now, in retrospect, this was not really at a good level. It was at the pre-market low, but not at the previous day's low, not at the ATR low. It's really, there was nothing that made this a particularly compelling opportunity to buy it. So in any case, this went all the way down, took me out. Actually, I think I had expanded that to 120 points. So it took me out for a $360 loss. So that was unfortunate. Now, just to prove that I'm just to prove I'm an idiot. I don't think we need proof of that. If you've watched these videos, you've pretty much got that sorted. What is it, 722? At 722, it looked like the ES was starting to rebound. And I thought, well, you know what? The choice of trading the Russell wasn't a great one, but the ES might be a better choice. It seemed like it was basing better. So if you look over here, you can see it's at the previous day's low. When did I say 722? Yeah, it's below the previous day's low. It's well below the pre-market low. This is a much better location to put a trade on. So so I started looking for some indication that we really were turning around. I'm going to pause this for a second and just make sure I can see all of these. All right, let's continue. And we are at 718. So you can now see that it looks like there's a bit of a base forming here. And let me pause this for a second. 720. I got in at 722 and it was 74.20. So I would have put the buy right there on, did I do 3? No, I did 4. So let's change that. We put a 4 lot on right here at 74.20. Okay, let's let that go. And this one, it looked better. It looked like we actually had the second green candle coming. It looked like the NQ was behaving. It looked like the ES was ready to turn around, but it didn't last very long. And of course, when you play this back at high speed, it's like it didn't last at all. It immediately came and took you out. It's like, what were you thinking? Yeah, you know what? Again, it seemed like a good idea at the time. It was nowhere near done selling, as we can clearly see here. So now I'm down. So I ended up with a $300 loss there. 4 contracts, 15 handles. And so the next ill-fated idea, and I will show you where this is, because now I'm sitting at minus $560 for the day. So I thought, okay, you know what? I got one more trade. There's one more trade opportunity here, after which the day's over, and this was just a wash. And it can either, I doubt that I'm going to make that back exactly, but I could soften the blow, or I could dig a deeper hole. And that's one of those two things was going to happen. And you already know which it was. But let's just wait till we get closer to 752, and we'll get in there. What are we doing? 740. Let me just advance it a little bit. 718. That's enough. And at 740, at 752, I got into the ES again. But this time I said, okay, I'm going to split my trade 3 ways. And I'm going to go super small in each of them. So I said 1 NQ, 1 ES, and 2 of the YM is what I'm going to do. And so I put on the trade here at Well, it was 752. It was at 74.08. And of course, I didn't do this until I started to see some green. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this just randomly. MNQ 624. So what was that? So 624 would have been up here somewhere. Let's get the right spot. There we are. So as we can see here, well, the 624 is going to require several of the 5-minute candles to have been addressed. So let's go ahead and play this. Oh, wait, I did also had a YM. You know what? I don't remember where I put the YM. I think it was, I don't exactly remember where I put the YM buy. In any case, the YM buy never did trigger. So I had that sitting in here somewhere. I can't exactly remember where, but it never triggered.
No.
It might have been above here. Okay, and so here we are. Now, what I decided to do with the ES is I expanded the stop a little bit, gave myself 20 full handles of room. 24, 8, 73, 88. So 20 full handles. We haven't triggered on the NQ yet. It will in a minute. And so this was, in effect, this was after the second candle. I said, okay,
No.
I think it might have even been, well, I can't remember. Anyway, so we're in now. And for the NQ, I gave it a little bit more. I ended up with 230 handles of risk. And for a while, both of these were looking pretty good. And I did flirt with the idea of moving the stops to even. Then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's just let it do what it's going to do. It would have taken me out in any case. It would have been a nothing trade. I left them in, and I left the YM purchase in. Although this was not it. It was definitely a lower level. Can't remember. In any case, it didn't trigger. So it's kind of irrelevant. But I took these smaller trades. I mean, you know what? It's funny. I always remember the Samuel Johnson quote that a second marriage is the triumph of hope over experience. And I look at this and think, yeah, this second turnaround attempt, this is actually the third and fourth, frankly, is the triumph of hope over experience. It's like, yeah, this is not a good day to be doing this. First of all, it's Fed day. So who the heck knows? The entire market is just sort of waiting and feeling fairly negative. And there's no energy behind anything that would give it a push upwards, at least not until after the Fed announcement, which doesn't happen for several hours yet at this point. So this was just in general a bad day to be taking trades, especially as many as I did take here. So this wasn't great. Anyway, long story short, this is going to go on for a while, actually, to the point where I got up and started doing my work elsewhere for the day. I just left this running. Well, at some point, needless to say, both of these got taken out. I think at some point something negative happened, and these both just sort of dropped way down, and the market continued selling off rather substantially. So both of these got taken out, and I ended up with another $100 plus $260 of loss. So that was a plus 100, a minus 360, a minus 300, a minus 100, and a minus 260. So that was not a great day. Total was minus 920, and it serves me right for trading on a Fed day. But anyway, that's life. I'm gonna let this keep going just so that I can, if I ever happen to watch this again, that I can enjoy the misery of this day. Because the reality is the only way you learn things is by experiencing enough pain that you don't repeat them. And so here we go. There we go. I wrote on the NQ, and we are out on the ES. Perfect. All right, so there you go. That was a not very good day today.